Howdy folks, Josh Shipp here. I'm the founder of Youth Speaker University, and in this video we're going to get nerdy about the art of public speaking and discuss what I call the 4 quadrants of public speaking. You'll walk away from this video with a tool that you can use to self-assess and self-evaluate how a particular speech went. Now in 1979, a DC-10 passenger jet carrying 257 people left New Zealand for a sightseeing flight to Antarctica. Now, unknown to the pilots, there was a minor 2-degree error in the flight coordinates. And as they approached Antarctica, the pilots began to descend to a lower altitude to give the passengers a better look at the landscape. Now, they didn't know about that slight 2-degree error in the flight coordinates, that it had placed them directly in the path of a 12,000-foot volcano, which sadly the plane crashed into the side of. You see, it was a massive tragedy brought on by a minor error, a matter of only a few degrees. You see, small corrections don't often feel like a big difference, but they often make a big difference. And in this video, we're going to discuss how to make small corrections in your speech. Now, at the time, they won't feel like a big difference, but they will indeed make a big difference. So I'm going to walk you through the 4 quadrants. I'm going to walk you through some self-evaluation questions that you can use, a speech scorecard, and I'm going to invite you to let us help you in developing and fine-tuning your speech regardless of what stage you find yourself in. So let me walk you through this idea of the 4 quadrants. This is something I've been using for a while for myself. I find it helpful, and hopefully you might as well. So the 4 quadrants, the first one is the emotional quadrant. So this is a part of your speech that's, depending on your style, engaging, funny, gripping, intense, maybe like that 1979 Antarctic flight story that I just told you about. That there's obviously nothing funny about it, but it is a little bit intense, a little bit suspenseful, a little bit gripping. Some folks here use comedy, some folks use magic, storytelling. Here the audience is laughing, they're crying, they're really engaged. This is the emotional quadrant of a speech. And then we have the logical quadrant. This is where it goes from sort of maybe anecdotal storytelling to evidence-based, some sort of research, some sort of evidence, some sort of statistic, not just a heartwarming story or an interesting idea, but something that can back it up, right? You don't want to go too heavy here. People don't want to have a bunch of statistics rattled off at them, but an audience does find it helpful to know that the advice that they're hearing or the message they're receiving is backed by something in addition to the individual messenger delivering it. The next quadrant we have is inspirational. So this is, personal stories that are moving or inspiring stories of other people, notable people, lesser known people that are inspiring. In this quadrant, you sort of have broad lessons with multiple applications, right? You're talking themes, not tactics. You're allowing the audience to extrapolate the specific lesson for their context. Here this also might be sort of, hey, keep at it, you can do this, like don't give up, a message of resilience, maybe for teachers, hey, you might be feeling burnt out, but you're making a difference, keep at it, keep doing your thing. And then the last of the 4 quadrants we have is practical. So this is where it's very pragmatic, very much tactics focus. This is, step by step, say this, ask yourself this, do this, try this, step 1, step 2, step 3. So really the aim for any of our speeches should be somewhere in here, where we have a nice balance of emotional, logical, inspirational, and practical. But I think if we're pretty honest, we can tend to end up in sort of maybe one of these 4 places where we're really good at a couple of the quadrants almost to the detriment of the others. And not all speeches call for this, but many do, where we want to try to hit that bullseye of hitting all 4 of these quadrants. Now, here are some self-evaluation questions you can ask yourself with each of the 4 quadrants. You'll notice the first question is going to be about sort of the audience's response or feedback as a clue of self-evaluation, and the second will be about the content itself. So in the emotional category quadrant, you can ask, did the audience laugh or cry? You can hear that, you can sense it. And then to the speech, does the speech include stories designed to evoke emotions? And again, that emotion could be intensity, an intense, gripping, sort of thriller movie story. It could be a funny story. It could be a story that makes you cry. In the logical quadrant, the first question, did the audience take notes, or, I find this one to be really key, did they take a picture of any of my slides? This is a good indicator that I'm presenting something logical enough for them to bother pulling out a pen or their phone and taking a note, or pulling out their phone and taking a photo of one of my slides. And does my speech content include credible research, evidence, or statistics? Or is it just anecdotal? Is it just my personal story or someone else's story or sort of a theory, but do you also balance it out with some sort of credible research outside of just your personal experience? For the inspirational quadrant, was the audience feedback that they came up and gave you afterwards, was it, did you get some feedback about a story that you shared? Hey, when you talked about your foster dad, Rodney, that really reminded me. Or, hey, when you talked about that kid you worked with, hey, when you shared that experience that you went through, you talked about how you struggled with, if you're getting this sort of feedback from audience members, that's a pretty good indication that you're doing a good job in the inspirational quadrant. And does the speech include a stirring call to persevere? Is there some sort of intentional, inspirational aspect to it? Now, depending on what topic you're speaking about, this is going to sound different depending on your topic and context. But essentially, like, hey, you're a teacher, you're feeling burnt out, this is difficult, but in your own way, keep at it. Hey, you're a student, you're struggling growing up in the day of social media, all this digital noise, but hey, keep at it. And then lastly, to the practical quadrant. Was the audience feedback you received afterwards not about a story you shared, but about a strategy you shared? Hey, you mentioned, doing that. I'm gonna try that with my kid. I'm gonna try that with my students. I'm gonna try that with my friends. And does the speech include genuinely, honest to goodness, helpful and actionable advice? So not just, hey, keep at it, but step 1, step 2, step 3, here's how to keep at it. Or looking back, here's how I kept at it. Or looking back, here's how I wish I would have kept at it. Or, investigating research, here's what some best practices say to keep at it. So those are some self-evaluation questions that you can ask. And then based on that, again, this video is super nerdy, but this is something I've been using for a while to self-evaluate. Now, this is self-assessment, honest, so you got to be brutally honest and self-aware about it all, to kind of rate myself in each of these 4 quadrants. And in each of the quadrants, I simply ask 2 questions, and if I answer yes to the question, I scored a 1. If I answer no to each individual question, I scored a 0. So the first quadrant, the emotional quadrant, did the audience laugh or cry? And does the speech include stories to evoke emotion? So let's say that to both of those I answer yes, so for each of those I give a 1, so my score there is 2. Now let's go to the practical quadrant. Did the audience take notes or picture my slide? And does the speech include research, evidence, or statistics? Let's say to this, 1's a yes, 1's a no, so I give myself a 1 there. Okay, next, the inspirational quadrant. Was the audience feedback about a story that you shared? And does the speech include a stirring call to persevere? So let's say I, yes to one, no to the other, so I give myself a 1 there. And lastly, the practical quadrant. Was the audience feedback about a strategy that you shared? And does the speech include a helpful and actionable advice? Let's say I had to be brutally honest and answered no to both of those. So my total score here out of 8 would be 4. And here's how I kind of think about the results. If I score 0 to 2, I need to rewrite it. It's like this just did not work. I could feel it. I could feel it on stage. I could feel it in the room. I could feel it in the audience. Maybe this is a worthwhile idea, but it didn't really hit. I need to rewrite it. 3 to 4, it's like, hey, this is a pretty good idea, but I really need to develop it. I really need to do the hard work of teasing out some helpful ideas, stories, advice that hit on each of these 4 quadrants. If I score a 5 to 6, it's like, this is quite strong, but I can fine-tune it. I can obsess about the little details, how to communicate something more clearly, more helpfully, appeal more to the heart, more to the mind, that sort of thing. And then a 7 to 8, crushed it. And when you find yourself in the crush it category, it's like, congratulations. But then the trick there is making sure as a communicator you don't burn out on it. This is the 100th time you've told this story. You know that it appeals to, the heart and the mind, but you've got to make sure you're not burned out and just sort of, coast. Yes, you've told this story 100 times, but this is the first time that your particular audience is hearing it. So I know this is super nerdy, but if you find this speech scorecard helpful, just take a screenshot of this or something and, give it a try in the next few speeches that you give. And lastly, I'd like to invite you to let us help you develop or fine-tune your speech. Because after all, your speech is your product. Your speech matters far more than fancy marketing or online ads or anything else that you can do that, it seems like a lot of folks are really fascinated with teaching these days. All those marketing tactics are fantastic once you layer them on top of an excellent product. And if you're a speaker like I am, the speech, that is your product. It is the reason, not the marketing, your product is the reason why you will or will not get hired. So if you're already a YSU student, as you know, we have 2 times a month a live coaching call on Zoom. Just log into your account, click that coaching tab, and you'll see right there exactly when the next coaching session is that you can attend live. And if you're not a YSU student, why not? Let's talk and see if it's a fit. We won't try to hard sell you if it's not a fit for what you're doing and what you're up to. If it is a fit, we'll just brutally honestly say, look, this is a no-brainer. You should absolutely be a part of it. YSU is our flagship program to help you launch and grow your speaking business using our proven step-by-step methodology. If you enjoyed a nerdy video like this, YSU is basically, 36 hours of nerdy videos breaking down every single aspect of the art and the business of public speaking. How to put together your speech, but also how to market yourself, how to book gigs, how to put together your demo video, how to book paid gigs, how to incrementally increase your fee, all of that. So if that's something you're interested in, you're not already a part of it, just go to that link that you see there, or it might be linked on this page, depending on where you're watching this video. Set up a call with a member of my team. And like I said, we won't hard sell you. Just let us know what you're up to, what you're aiming for, and we'll be brutally honest whether or not we think we're a good fit for you. If we're not, we'll just tell you. We'll just say, look, good luck, God bless you, but you're not a fit for what we're doing. Or, hey, here's another organization or individual that might be able to help you more with what you're aiming to do. So that concludes this nerdy video about the 4 quadrants of public speaking. Hope it's helpful to you. Look forward to hearing how you utilize it in your speaking journey.